Welcome to The Explainer. You know, whether you realize it or not, your life is filled with rituals. From huge public ceremonies all the way down to your own personal morning coffee routine. But what if I told you they're way more than just a series of actions? Today, we're going to go inside. We're going to explore what is really going on in our minds and bodies during a ritual.
We can all see the external stuff, right? The chanting, the special clothes, the deliberate movements. But that's kind of like the shell of the thing. The real mystery, the one we're chasing today, is what's happening underneath it all.
And this is the question at the heart of it all. For this explainer, we're going to set aside the why do people do this or what's the point of it all. Instead, we're focusing on one thing. What's it like? We want to get a sense of the raw, unfiltered, lived experience from the inside out.
But here's the tricky part, and this quote just nails it. The moment you start analyzing an experience, you've already changed it. Think about it. The second you say to yourself, wow, I'm feeling so peaceful right now, poof, the peacefulness is kind of gone. So to get around that, our sources really rely on the insider's view, the stories of people who have lived these moments unwatched.
Okay, so where does this inner journey actually begin? Well, you might think it starts when the main event kicks off, but that's not it. The real transformation, the shift in consciousness, it starts long before that. It starts in the preparation.
The very first thing that changes is our relationship with time. See, we usually live in ordinary time, or clock time. It's linear, it's always about getting to the next thing. The present moment is just a thin little bridge to the future. But ritual pulls us into what's called a thick present. It's a moment that feels dense and spacious and full, a moment where the past and the future feel like they're held together right here, right now.
All this preparation creates this really special psychological space called liminality. I love this concept. Think of it like standing on a threshold. You're not quite who you were, and you're not yet who you're about to become. You're in between. And it's in that powerful liminal space that our normal, everyday identities start to soften up, making real change actually possible.
And here is something that might sound a little backward, but it's absolutely crucial. Your body enters the ritual before your mind does. Simple physical things like washing in a particular way or putting on special clothes, or even just intentionally slowing down your movements. Those actions send a signal to your nervous system. Your body begins to inhabit that sacred space long before your chattering, planning mind has even caught up.
All right, so we're prepped. Let's move into the core of the ritual itself. Because once we're inside, our consciousness really starts to operate differently. And it all begins with how we pay attention.
In our normal day-to-day, our attention is, well, it's scattered, isn't it? We're scanning our email, thinking about dinner, half listening to something. But ritual encourages something called gathered attention. Now, this isn't about straining to focus. It's more like your attention is being gently pulled in, drawn in, collected and focused on the here and now.
So what happens when your attention is gathered like that? The world looks different. You see things you'd normally miss. With this kind of attention, you don't just see a priest's hands moving. You suddenly perceive, and I'm quoting here, the liturgical tradition extending back through centuries. Wow. It's like whole new layers of reality just become visible.
You ever been so absorbed in something that you just completely lose track of time? Ritual does that in a really profound way. That little narrator in our heads, the voice that's constantly telling us the story of what's happening, it starts to quiet down. And when that voice gets quiet, our whole sense of time just dissolves. It literally bends.
You know, the sound in a ritual is never just background music. It's actually a kind of technology for altering our state of mind. The repetition of a chant, the steady beat of a drum, these aren't random. They can physically cause our heartbeats and our breathing to synchronize with others in the group. It's a real phenomenon called entrainment, and it pulls a whole room of people into a single shared state of being. Now from here, the journey can go even deeper. So let's take a look at the climax of some of these ritual experiences, where the most intense, the most transformative states of consciousness can happen.
Ritual can guide people along a whole spectrum of trance states. It might start off pretty mild, just a softening of your attention, but it can progress into a deep trance, a state where the very boundaries of yourself begin to get blurry and dissolve. And for some, it can lead to a profound feeling of union, where the line between you and the world completely disappears.
In some traditions, this can culminate in an experience that's described as possession. Now, we're just looking at the lived experience here, what it feels like from the inside. And what's reported is that the person's ordinary, everyday self seems to completely step aside.
This makes way for what is felt as a divine presence to speak and act through their body. It's described as an immediate, direct, embodied encounter.
And this right here is really the ultimate promise of these deep ritual states. It's not about a belief you hold in your head. It's about a direct, lived experience, an actual encounter with something that feels profoundly larger than your individual everyday self.
So, what does all this mean for us today? Why does this ancient human technology still matter so deeply? Well, it turns out it helps us with some of our most essential, most human needs. Life is full of moments that are just too big for us to handle on our own, especially the intense grief and the sheer incomprehensibility of death. Now, ritual doesn't solve these mysteries. But what it does, and this is so important, is it provides a container, a structure, to help us be present with these overwhelming things without being completely swept away by them. So you can see ritual is far from being some dusty, obsolete practice. It's still a powerful tool for processing grief, for marking all the big transitions in our lives, for building real community, and even for preserving our relationships with those we've lost. And ultimately, it gives us a way to encounter the sacred in our own lives. And, even in our modern scientific world, what the sociologist Max Weber called a disenchanted world, that deep human hunger for meaning, for genuine connection, and for experiencing something beyond ourselves, well, it hasn't gone anywhere. If anything, it's stronger than ever.
Which leaves us with a final question to chew on. At a time when so many of us are searching for deeper connection and meaning, is it possible that we've forgotten or maybe just set aside one of the most powerful and ancient tools we have for finding it?